out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Rumi. I always believed in that field, but I didn't know it was for me. And had it not been for that one difficult decision 23 years ago, I wouldn't be standing here. So one quiet morning, when everyone was asleep in the house, with one suitcase in hand, we tiptoed down the staircase to the car. My husband was dropping our 2.5-year-old son and me to the airport. We were going to Kuwait to visit my family, and we did that every year, except this year was different. I wasn't planning to come back, and I hadn't told anyone in the family about it. I wanted a divorce, and that was a really difficult decision. I'd been avoiding it for 6 years. I remember crying in the bathroom quietly, and then stepping out and being a good mom, being a good mother, a wife, a business person. And I kept doing that till I numbed out and I couldn't do it any longer. On that particular day, I walked away from that life. And it wasn't until many years later when I came to the United States with my son and experienced mindfulness that I realized that all my life I had been living on autopilot. I wasn't aware of the choices I was making and why. How about you? Are you aware of the choices you're making that are on autopilot? Are you aware of the decisions you make, like the career you've chosen, relationships, your choice of school? Now, I used to teach marketing, and on the first day of class, I would ask my students, why are you here? And you know what? Many of them didn't have an answer for that. And now if you're thinking, that's not me, I'm deliberate, I know what I'm doing, stay with me. So once I started researching mindfulness and consulting people around the world, that's when I realized it wasn't just me. We're all living on autopilot. And in fact, there's a seminal paper called The Unbearable Automaticity of Being. And in that, the authors claim that up to 95% of our decisions are made unconsciously. So what that means is that even the big decisions, many of our motivations, judgments, emotions underlying those decisions are hidden from us. Now, there's a good reason for that. You see, we have limited cognitive resources. So the brain tries to automate everything. And that's a good thing, right? Because we don't have to relearn how to write, how to read, how to drive, brush our teeth every day, except the brain automates or wants to automate everything, including our conversations with loved ones and how we deal with conflict at work. We like to create shortcuts to most of our decisions, good, bad, right, wrong. I like to think of that way of thinking, this autopilot way of thinking, as the treadmill. As we grow up, we tend to spend more and more time on the treadmill. Now, when we were children, we actually spent more time in the field beyond wrongdoing and right doing that Rumi talked about. We had creative minds, curious minds that were willing to play with ideas, to connect. And in that space, there was imagination, there was creation, there was connection and magic. And even as adults, we have that capacity to return to that field, to that spacious mind that is free from stress, from distractions, from judgments. And I like to call that spacious mind our field within. Now, you may have experienced that in a flow activity like skiing or painting or playing music. And you know what? It's also there in the ordinary moments, like when we hear the birds sing, or I personally love to dance under the stars. And you know what? We don't have to do anything special for that. This capacity is in us, in all of us, like right now. So let's try this together. If you already have a way to return to your field, I encourage you to do that. Or please join me. So just taking a moment to return your attention inwards, lowering or closing your eyes, if that's helpful. And just becoming aware of this breath moving naturally in and out of your body. Now with each in-breath, feeling the spaciousness in your chest. And with each exhale, allowing your shoulders to drop down. Just a little bit more. For this next breath, letting go of your judgments and expectations of how this moment needs to be. And seeing if you can receive the gift of this breath in this moment. And when you complete that cycle, opening your eyes, were you able to let go of your judgments and distractions and reach your field within? And if you didn't, that's okay. And that's actually the challenge we have, is that we're not able to reach that field within when we want to. And I'm here to tell you that mindfulness is your capacity to step off the treadmill and return to that field within. Mindfulness is a practice. It disrupts our autopilot thinking and supports us in returning to our awareness, the field within. And mindfulness is also the field of non-judging awareness that actually allows us to see things clearly. So if it's a natural capacity, why are we not able to access it? Because there are three hindrances or three tendencies of the mind: to push, to pull, and to run in circles. Now, I thought I knew what this was about as a mindfulness teacher and as a researcher, and it's only when I joined politics that I really understood what these hindrances were. So I remember my first political debate when I was running for town council. I was waiting in line with 5 other candidates, 100 people packed in a library waiting for us. And my campaign manager comes over, seeing my nervousness. "You know mindfulness, you know what to do." And I'm like, I have no idea what mindfulness looks like in this moment, because my heart was beating really fast, my mind is jumping from topic to topic, and I was feeling like really anxious. So I take a deep breath in. So that helped some, and then came in doubt. I don't belong here. I didn't have any experience in politics, and some of the candidates had many years of experience. So I pushed my negative thoughts away with some positive thinking and breathing. And at the end of the debate, my campaign manager comes to me and says, "You were not yourself." And you know what? He was right, because I was so disconnected from myself and the audience. So in that one critical situation, I encountered all 3 hindrances. My mind was running in circles, I was pushing away what's uncomfortable, and I was grasping for audience validation. So what happened here? Well, public speaking is hard. And even though I do this a lot, what was particularly difficult about that situation was that it was different. It was a new context for me. So what happens is that when we go into situations that are difficult, our brain goes clunk, and it sees that as difficult. And it's natural in that situation for us to experience anxiety, nervousness, and that's actually a brain preparing us to get focused, to get energized. But it feels uncomfortable, so what do? We turn away from it. We avoid it with positive thinking, with breathing, Netflix, whatever. And what we're really doing is we are turning away from ourselves. We're turning away from how we're feeling, what we're thinking. And you know what else we're turning away from? From our purpose, from our passions, the gifts that we wanted to and could bring to that situation. And that was the reason I felt disconnected from myself. And because I wasn't connected to myself, I couldn't connect with the audience. So the invitation here is that we are willing to meet ourselves with the good and the messy. And when we do that, we're able to examine our emotions and our thoughts with kindness. And we're able to see, to look closely what's true and what's our default. And you know, when I did that in the subsequent debates, my campaign manager came and told me I was 1,000 times better. And you know what? How much better can our lives be? 1,000 times better if only we can learn not to avoid the discomfort and to be able to return to ourselves. However, we never grew up learning how to do that, right? And here is where mindfulness comes in. Mindfulness can be practiced with 3 steps: meditate, contemplate, and act. So the first step is to meditate, which is returning to our non-judging awareness. The meditation allows us to retrain our brain to focus on the object we've chosen. So it could be your breath, your body, movement. And here's the thing. You can even do this with any regular activity like swimming or running or Zumba. And in fact, I encourage people who have a problem or difficulty doing sitting meditation to try any of these activities. The second step is to contemplate. So once our mind is stabilized, now we can contemplate what is my experience right now and what are my intentions for this situation. We can ask ourselves, what's here now and what would I like to see happen? What's important right now? And the third step is to act. It's not enough to just have good intentions, right? So the more we can practice acting skillfully in non-critical situations, the easier it will be to act skillfully in critical situations. Now, you can see why it is really important to think and re-envision mindfulness to include meditation, contemplation, and skillful actions. Now, I forget this all the time, and I need reminders. So I put these sticky notes around and I put timers which remind me it's different, not difficult. And now at this point, if you're already pushing this idea away because it seems hard, and you're thinking like, wait, I'm supposed to meditate and do what? Let me just remind you, and you can remind yourself, even for your practice, it's just different, not difficult. And the more you do this, what was different becomes the new default. As a society, we have many big decisions we need to make. As we come out of the pandemic, we can step back on the treadmill and we can forge our way forward. Or we can return to the field together. I understand there's an urgency to get back to normal, but the pandemic has forced us to see normal is broken. We have insurmountable challenges: racism, poverty, climate change, to name just a few. Staying on the treadmill mostly provides us quick fixes, efficiencies, and strategies that favor some but not others. We need a new way of thinking. We need a new way of working together, of finding solutions that emerge when we're willing to struggle together. I believe that mindfulness builds our collective capacity to move through our resistance and return to the field together. And in this space, there is creative potential to solve any problem. Maybe not right away, but it supports us in making this journey together possible and even worthwhile. Moving forward, when you encounter difficulty at home, at work, or in the community, remember, don't walk away. Return back to yourself and remind yourself and each other, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. Let's meet there.